Season 3 of Warzone is finally here, and I have a settings video that I'm going to help you to get all the frames that you are looking for in this brand new season. What you want to do first is make sure that you go into settings. Once you have the settings pulled up, apps section, these are for settings for those who are on Windows 11. So you want to go to installed apps. If you have apps that are running in the background, and let's just say you want to turn off the calculator as a background app. So you press advanced options, select when you go where it says let this app run in the background. You want to make sure you choose the never option. Having all of these settings off will allow your RAM to be able to have more power, to be able to run properly and smoothly when playing Call of Duty Warzone. You're going to go to the gaming tab over here, game bar, make sure that this is turned off. This is another background app that you're going to want to make sure that is turned off so that you're able to have your game run smoother. On that same menu as well, you can go to the graphics tab over here. And so what you can do, you can click on this app right here. You can select options, and you'll be able to see where it says, what do you prefer for graphics performance? You're going to want to choose high performance so that you can give your PC the highest performance possible. Once you get back to the gaming tab, you're going to want to select game mode. You want to make sure that the game mode is selected to on. This is where you're able to get better performance within your gaming, and you're turning most things off in the background. Now, after you have gone and finished up the gaming settings, you're going to want to go to the Windows Update window, press download and install all, so you can allow all the settings to apply to your new updated settings. Now, the next thing you're going to want to go to is you're going to want to go into your Nvidia GeForce app. If you do not have this installed, you can Google Nvidia GeForce app and you'll be able to find the download for the app. And I highly recommend downloading it for your PC so that you're able to get notified for any time that you have any driver updates. Once you have the Nvidia app up, you're going to want to go to the driver section. And so it may say that you have a GeForce Game Ready driver available. And after you have installed the driver, you're going to want to make sure to restart your PC. Next, what you're going to want to do is make sure to press the up menu, and then you're going to want to go to the Nvidia control panel. The first thing you'll want to go to is the manage 3D settings. For the image scaling, make sure to have that set to off, ambient inclusion off, anisotropic filtering set to application controlled, anti-aliasing XAA off, the gamma correction set to on, anti-aliasing mode set to application controlled, anti-aliasing transparency off, background application max frame rate off. You're going to want to have your CUDA GPU set to all, system fallback policy set to driver default, DSR factors off, low latency mode. You're going to want to have this set to off. Max frame rate, you're going to want to set to off. Monitor technology, some of you guys may have different monitors. Mine is the G-Sync compatible. Multi-frame sampled, you're going to want to set this to off. OpenGL GDI compatibility, you can leave this at auto. OpenGL rendering GPU, instead of having it from auto select, you're going to want to have it set to Nvidia GeForce RTX 4090 or whichever graphics card that you have. This is so that it allows you to be able to have the performance from your GPU that it's supposed to be putting in your PC. Power management mode, prefer maximum performance so you can get the most performance possible. A preferred refresh rate, you want to have the highest available for the best performance for your monitor. Shader cache size, this has been a debate between driver defaults, 100 gigs, unlimited, all these different settings, but for this, I would recommend having it to driver default. Texture filtering set to off, texture filtering negative LOD set to allow, the texture filtering quality set to quality, texture filtering trilinear optimization on, threaded optimization auto, triple buffering set to off, vertical sync, use the 3D application setting, a virtual reality pre-rendered frames is 1, virtual reality variable rate super sample off, and Vulkan OpenGDL present method set to auto. That is all the settings. Next thing you're going to want to select is the configure surround physics. Make sure also before you click on that page, make sure that you apply these settings so that it applies. You may see a screen flicker, do not worry. It just means that the settings are updating on your PC. So when you're going to the processor, you'll see where it says processor. You're going to want to make sure that you select your most powerful part of your PC. And normally they have it set to auto, which is the recommended setting. They have Nvidia GeForce RTX 4090 CPU. I highly recommend, please make sure that you have it set to Nvidia GeForce RTX 4090 or whichever graphics card you have. The reason for this is so that you're able to have your graphics card do the majority of the work, since most games are more into the graphics card. And I'm now going to go ahead and show you guys the in-game settings in Call of Duty. Once you have your game fully booted up, make sure you go to the Call of Duty Warzone Season 3 menu over here, and you're going to want to select the cogwheel up here to go into your graphics settings. Now on this menu, you're going to have these different modes. So we're going to start with display. So for your display mode, there are two different ones I would recommend. If you are a one monitor setup, then I would recommend making sure to have it to full screen exclusive so that it allows you to be able to have the full on best performance you can get possible. And it allows you to be able to have your game focused on this particular screen. Now, there's another setting that you can do. You can do the full screen borderless if you have a multi-monitor setup on your PC. This allows you to be able to tab out without having the game tab itself out, and so that you're able to have the game still on the screen while you're having your cursor move to a different monitor. This is super helpful if you're a streamer like I am and be able to interface with all these different functionalities. Also, if you guys want to check out some gaming clips or also hang out and stream or join in for some viewer games, make sure you guys go check out and drop a follow for twitch.tv/RedFireXTrevor. For the display adapter, you're going to make sure it's set to the dedicated graphics card. For mine, it's the Nvidia GeForce RTX 4090. The screen refresh rates, you can select either one, doesn't matter, but make sure that you give yourself the best refresh rate possible. For me, it's the 240 hertz. For your display resolution, make sure that you have the dedicated resolution for your monitor. Display gamma, make sure you set it to 2.2. This is for if you are on a gaming monitor, make sure you're going to want to select the 2.2 sRGB. If you have a TV as your go-to monitor for your games, I would highly recommend to set it to 2.4. Next, we're going to go ahead and go to the Nvidia Reflex low latency. If you have a very high GPU, I would recommend setting it to just on. If you have a lower spec build, I'd recommend it to have it on plus boost. Do not ever set it to off. Eco mode preset, I'd recommend to set to custom. VSync gameplay set to off. This is if you want to be able to have the most amount of frames possible for your gameplay so that you're not capped at the resolution of your monitor. VSync menus, I set this to off. A custom frame rate limit. Some of you guys may have different preferences. Some of you may, if you want to have it set to the refresh rate of your monitor, make sure that you press the option where it says custom and you're able to set the limit as to your liking. Reduce menu render resolution set to native. Pause game rendering off. Reduce quality when inactive set to off. Focus mode set to 90. High dynamic range set to automatic. Once you have all the settings set up, if you have made any changes, make sure that you press the apply button that is going to be at the bottom. We're going to go to the quality tab. So for the graphic preset, set it to custom. Some of you guys may have different settings based upon your PC build. For those who want to have the most balance and potentially the best looking game possible, I would recommend to make sure to set it primarily on fidelity as cache. This one tends to be the most popular setting and the most common setting that people use, whether you're on AMD or on Intel. It is a great one so that you're able to have the details that you need and to make the game look really good. If you have a GeForce graphics card, I'd recommend setting it to Nvidia DLSS. Do not use Nvidia DLAA. This is a very downgraded Nvidia setting. Do not use it. Do not use AMD FSR1. This one's also very outdated. Once you have chosen it, if you're on the Nvidia DLSS frame generation, make sure you set it to off. For the AMD FSR3 frame generation, set it to off. You don't need these settings. This is only just for the sake of generating frames that are not really there necessarily. And plus, this is usually a setting that is primarily focused on games that are, as far as when it comes to the campaign, when it comes to campaign type of games or playthroughs. This is not for Battle Royale. You're not going to care about looking at the environment of the maps necessarily. So VRAM scale target, I would recommend setting it between 60 and 70. Now for texture resolution, I would recommend setting it to normal. For texture filter and isotropic, set it to high. This does not affect your frames. Depth of field, set this to off. If you don't want any sort of blurriness when it comes to focusing in the game, make sure you set it to off. Detail quality set to low. Particle resolution set to very low. You're not going to be paying attention to the graphics of all that, so make sure to set it to off. Bullet impact, some people have said that they don't like to have it on, and some people really like to have it on. This one's kind of a personal preference. I like to have it set to on. Persistent effects, set this to on. Shader quality, you can set this up to high, but you can also, this will not affect your frames at all, so you can set it to the highest available. On-demand texture streaming, you can set it to optimized. For the allocated texture cache size, I set it to 32. Limits, set it to off. For local texture streaming quality, I set this to normal. And then all the rest of these settings at the bottom here, you're going to want to set it to all, either low or set it to off, aside from this setting that does not affect your frames, the screen space reflections. But everything else, like the shadow quality, screen space, occlusion and screen space sliding, static reflection quality, tessellation, volumetric quality, deferred physics quality, weather, water quality, all these set to off and low. Once you have everything that you need from these settings, you can press apply settings at the bottom. Alrighty, so for the view tab, you're gonna wanna set the motion reduction preset set to off. And then for the field of view, this one is kind of a personal preference. ADS field of view, set it to affected. This is what allows you to be able to see the different ways of what it looks like to zoom on your gun. Weapon field of view, set it to wide. Third person field of view, set to 90. Vehicle field of view as default. World motion blur set to off. If you don't want to have motion sickness, if you want to, this should not even be a setting. It does not even look good. Set this to off. Weapon motion blur, same thing. Set it to off. This just does not look appealing at all when it's all blurry and stuff like that. Set it to off. First person camera movement, least 50. Third person, least 50. Third person ADS transition with third person ADS. Inverted flashbang. So what this setting is that anytime you get flashbang, if you have the default setting on, when you're flashbanged, it's gonna flash white. Now this may hurt your eyes and it may really bother you. So if you're that person that's like, oh, my eyes, it hurts, it's driving me crazy. Well, guess what? There's a setting to where if you set it to on, like I do, instead of it flashing white, it's gonna be flashing black. So it's less hurt on your eyes, you're able to see better, you're not having to worry about the flashing white on your screen, and you are able to have it be black instead of white. Now, once you're done with those settings, you can make sure you press apply at the bottom here, and you should be all good to go. Next, you're gonna wanna go into the audio tab over here. Master game volume, I recommend to make sure to set it to 100. For this audio device, speakers, headphones, game sound device, make sure to set it to default system device. Now, there's not really any sort of trick here. There is great sound. It's so much easier to hear footsteps now. And so with these proper settings, you're able to hear so much better. You're also able to turn enhanced headphones on. So this is a setting that I would personally recommend to have on. If you have paid the subscription service for Call of Duty to have better sounds, then you can use the Get Immersed Game Pack and make sure that you set it that to on. For audio mix, I set this to headphone bass boost so I can be able to hear the best sound possible. Mono audio set to off. Asymmetrical hearing compensation on. Configure frequency intensity. This one is kind of your personal preference. Reduce tinnitus sound. You can have this set to on if you have tinnitus issues. Once you have these settings applied, you can go ahead and select the interface tab and you should be good to go. The telemetry, you can press show more. And so what does this mean exactly? So what it means is that if you want to see stuff like you're on the top left of your screen, you can set this as counter, for example, set to on. Server latency, it shows what your ping is when you're playing the game for your internet. You can see the amount of packet loss you're getting in the game. This can be very helpful to know if your game is going through issues. You can see your GPU temperature at the very top. You could also see your graphics card GPU time. You could also see the graphics card GPU clock, how many clock frames are going in. Your VRAM usage is also able to show at the top how much of your VRAM is being used. Processor CPU time, you're able to see that on the top of your screen. The time is also to show up at the top of your screen. So if you want all of these settings on, you can set instead of pressing custom, you can have it set to all on. Now for the next tab, gameplay HUD, you can go over here. And so you're gonna wanna make sure you set your minimap shape to square. This is so you're able to see the most out of your minimap. It makes it look so much easier. If you set it to the circle, it is harder to find. So I'd recommend the square option. Minimap rotation, you can set this to on. The radar, I would recommend setting this to off. Compass type horizontal. Map assist auto center. Stamina bar off. This is if you want to see, if you want to see the stamina near your health, you can set it to on, or near your crosshair, you can set it to on. It doesn't really matter to me, so I set it to off. And all these settings should be all good to go over here. You can also mess with your crosshair. You can have your crosshair look like a center dot. You can have it be static, which is the one that I have, or you can just have it simply set to on or off. You can also see the widget visibility of the weapon formation, equipment formation, all of that. I just leave it the way it is. and everything else should be good to go. So actually there is a setting that I would also recommend to go to when it comes to the readability. There's actually a section called color customization. Once you're in the readability tab, make sure you select color customization, and you'll be able to see this menu right over here. You're going to be able to see to where you can change the color of your arrow. So for example, when you're looking at your arrow on the map, for this example, you can see that it is yellow. So the color yellow represents you, your team represents blue, but if you have a party of people that are playing with you, such as your friends, it's going to show up as green. The enemies on your map are going to show red. Neutral is going to be set to white. Contested is going to show as like an orange color. So if you want to change these colors, you can change it however you want to make it easier for you to see and also be able to go on the map. You can go ahead and back out of that screen and you should be good to go. And so remember that setting that I mentioned about when it comes to the restart shaders preloading? Yes, so I mentioned this earlier. So this is a setting that is very, very important. So you're gonna wanna press restart so that you're able to allow the settings that you just changed on the game to be able to fully optimize and update on your game. Exit out of the game and then restart it up and relaunch. All right, and once you have your game fully up and running, you're gonna see at the top left of your screen where it says shaders preloading. So this means it is loading in all the new settings that you just updated on your game. So give it some time to fully reach 100%. And once it disappears, just like what just happened here, then you should be all good to go. Your game is ready to be played. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today's video. Thank you guys again for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments below if this video has helped you run your game better, and let me know what kind of frame rates are you guys getting on your PC when running Call of Duty Warzone.
Come and get